Carl, we gotta move on out of here. There's walkers around. Good evening, my dear summoners, and welcome to the Alliteration gaming video. My name's Levi, and I'm coming at you with another Van Life deck profile. This time I am cruising straight back into the Rift to do another Riftbound profile because holy cow, Spiritforged is out. This set is crazy, and we've got to talk about my favorite new deck from this expansion, and that is Rek'Sai, the Void Burrower. So Rek'Sai here is a Fury Order legend with the ability that when you conquer, you can exhaust her to reveal the top 2 cards of your main deck, and then you can play one of them, and then you recycle any you don't play. This is a really dope ability that kind of just lets us dig for a lot of combo pieces, a lot of value pieces, a lot of just kind of easy, cheap, go wide strategies. This is a very interesting deck because it's very heavy removal based, but it also likes to put bodies on the board. So it's quite a heavy tempo deck. The goal is most turns you want to put a guy on your board and then take 1 to 2 guys off of their board. Rek'Sai really helps out with that because that typically involves playing 2 cards a turn, and at some point you're going to run out of cards. You're going to run out of cards if you're playing 2 cards a turn. You only draw 1 card a turn in this game. So this ability just kind of keeps you really efficient and keeps you really lean on your cards, and also just kind of gets you closer to the things you want. A lot of times this wants to play some of your cheapest cards that you can, like, you know, keep popping off, but sometimes it also just gets you that clutch removal piece you needed to, like, you know, clinch a game, or it just gets you 2 cards, even if you just, like, flip top 2, you don't want either, put them at the bottom, you're 2 cards closer to cards that you do want right now, and that is really strong as well. And then for our chosen champion, we are playing the Fury Rek'Sai here, who is a 3-cost 3-might unit with Accelerate, Assault 1, and any units that you play not from your hand also have Accelerate. So obviously the main combo here is if you play a unit off of your legend, the Rek'Sai Breacher here can give it Accelerate. Assault with 3-might, Accelerate 4-might unit in is pretty powerful, and you're getting the same Accelerate power rate as Kaisa, but you're getting to pay 1 less for it. Obviously, it doesn't draw a card when you conquer, but your legend sort of does sometimes. So this is just a really good on-demand. Having an Accelerate unit in your chosen champion zone is just quite a powerful option, and there's some really cool combos with this effect as well that we'll kind of see later on. So moving to the side here, let's talk about our battlefields a little bit. I'm playing Candlelit Sanctum, Zon Warrens, and Vilemaw's Lair. Turn order is not very relevant on these. They're all kind of pretty, like, you know, standard efficient battlefields. You don't need to go really first for any of them. Candlelit says that when you conquer it, you can look at the top 2 cards of your main deck and recycle any that you like. So this obviously sets up your Rek'Sai ability pretty amazingly. Getting to sort of dig 4 cards for this effect instead of just 2 is really powerful. And then your other consistency piece here is your Zon Warrens. Discard 1 and draw 1 when you conquer. We are playing the Immortal Phoenix in this deck, so naturally the discard synergy here is super duper strong. And then for this third battlefield, I'm just playing a Vilemaw's Lair because it doesn't really hurt us very much, and it is very good against Draven, Overzealous Fan, Fight or Flight, that sort of stuff. So I think right now with how powerful potent Draven is, if Vilemaw's Lair does not really hurt you as a battlefield, you should probably be running that. And then our rune split is also pretty simple. It's just 7 Furies and 5 Orders. Honestly, you spend almost all Fury in this deck for the most part, but I think you still have to play at least 5 Order because we play Call of the Week sometimes. Sometimes we really want to play it on like turn 2 or super early, and if you played like 8 Furies and 4 Orders, the odds of just flipping like those first 4 Furies and then not being able to use things like Call of the Week or Hidden Blade, they just get a little bit better. So you want to keep your options open there. Let's start talking about the deck itself and get into our units. So our 2 drops, we're playing 3 copies of Honest Broker and then 3 copies of Pouty Poro. Honest Broker is a new one from Spiritforged. When it dies, you just get a gold gear token exhausted. So it's sort of like a 2-might version of the Soaring Scout, the little bird that just like directly channels a rune. This is fine. Sometimes it being 2-might is genuinely pretty relevant, but you could also play the bird if you truly wanted to. And then our other guy is just a little Pouty Poro. I think Deflect on a 2-drop is basically insane. That early on is basically hexproof, and I think that is just really powerful. Next up, we'll get into our 3 drops, and we're playing 3 copies of the Immortal Phoenix. And so this guy right here is kind of like one of the main combo pieces of the deck. You'll see this deck called like Phoenix Rek'Sai quite a bit, and this guy is the core of that. He's a 3-might guy with Assault 2, so he swings really, really big. And then when you kill something with a spell, you can basically revive him from the discard pile for energy and a power. So this guy is just like, you know, an infinite zombie. This guy is the Walking Dead. And then of course, when you're comboing up with the Rek'Sai Breacher, you're playing it from outside of your hand, so you can give it Accelerate. Even if your opponent's kind of grinding you out of the game, you have this crazy end game where if you draw the Rek'Sai Breacher, or if you just hold the Rek'Sai Breacher in your champion zone, at some point you can, like, you know, kill their guy, accelerate in 2 of these, and then just go like crazy with a double conquer. So it's pretty hard to stop this deck from conquering in the late game. The Immortal Phoenix, as this just kind of like, you know, undying chicken is a really, really, really big part of that. Carl, we gotta go 3-0 at locals, Carl. We gotta draw Falling Star, Carl. And of course, with Breacher and Phoenix being such a powerful duo, I'm also playing 2 more copies of Rek'Sai Breacher. I think these could just as well be Kai'Sa's survivors if you really wanted them to. I like having the consistency of my Phoenix Accelerate combos a little bit more, as well as that cheap Accelerate cost 4 to accelerate a 4-power guy is just really strong. And I like to be able to summon this one from my champion zone a little bit more nonchalantly. Next up, we got 3 copies of Noxus Hopeful. This guy's crazy, man. Best 2-drop in the game, baby. So this guy has Legion. He costs 2 less. This is just really powerful. We play so many cards a turn. Rek'Sai is really good at finding these off the top of the deck, but you got to play a card before you go in and conquer, or you're going to get stuck with a 4-drop Noxus Hopeful that you flipped off the top. Because Rek'Sai doesn't put them in your hand. You're playing them right from the top, or you're not playing it at all. So make sure that you go in and you play, like, you know, some little stinker into your base, or you play your removal first, then you kind of go in and conquer and dig for your Noxus Hopeful. The seal is really good for that as like a free card. That way you don't kind of like lock in your turn too early. And then our last unit, sort of our top end here, is 3 copies of Darius Treferian. You know, this guy is just massive. When you play your second card in a turn, ready him up and give him 2 might. This guy's huge. You know, we have so many 2s in this deck, and then, you know, you haven't even seen the spells and stuff yet. So once you hit 7, it's very, very easy to play Darius and get him all readied up. And, you know, he's just kind of fitting that in that same style of once you hit your mid game, this guy's going to help you keep like double conquering every single turn. Again, with things like the Rek'Sai triggers and like our signature spell, we can dig for this guy really easy. He can save us in a pickle. Really love Darius. Big fan of triple Darius in this deck. So we are playing 3 copies of the Seal of Rage. We'd play 4 or 5 of this if we probably could. These just, you know, tap to give you 1 red power. It's really, really good. We're spending typically 2 power on average every turn in this deck. So finding, you know, a couple of these is really how you kind of get into that crazy late game where you can do things like, I don't know, get to 9 and then do like a Darius and accelerated Rek'Sai turn or something. The Seal of Rage is very, very important. If you basically ever find these off a Rek'Sai trigger, it's almost always the card you're taking, because you got to see multiple of them pretty quickly, or you're going to just start de-ramping yourself so hardcore. And then our last gear is I'm just going to play 1 copy of the Sun Disc. This is something that I've seen a lot of the Phoenix Rek'Sais go back and forth on. This card just has Legion, you can exhaust it, and the next unit you play this turn enters ready. So obviously the turn you play it is really cool because you play it, and then you can Legion because you played a card, you've played it. After that, it gets a little bit more awkward because you got to play 2 cards to get your ready guy. And that can sometimes be awkward with the Immortal Phoenix, because if you just play your removal and then revive the Phoenix, there's no window between those abilities to activate the Sun Disc to make your Phoenix come in ready. So you have to like play card A, then tap the Sun Disc, then play removal, then revive the Phoenix, and it is ready. But it is a free ready, and that's really good. I'm just playing 1 because I've played a whole lot of games with this deck without the Sun Disc, and it always felt completely fine. However, when you do see the Sun Disc, you can achieve a significantly higher ceiling sometimes. So it's kind of a perfect one of in that sense, because you're very okay if you don't draw it, but if you do kind of run into it, well, now it's pretty sweet and you have some extra power in your corner. All right, getting into our spells now. We of course have 3 copies of Void Rush, our signature spell. This card's worst form is Pot of Greed. You flip over the top 2 cards of your main deck, you may play one of them, reducing its cost by 2, and then you draw any you don't play. So you're gonna flip 2. You don't have to play either of them. You can just draw 2, or you can play 1 for 2 less. So it's sort of like, it turns itself into one of the top 2 cards in your deck for basically the same cost. And it will draw you the other one and replace itself, which is really good. There's a lot of like really dope combos you can do there. First of all, if you're on directly just 5 runes flat, and you play Void Rush and then find Darius, you can play Darius with your other 3, and then he will come in ready as your second card. So that's kind of a cool way to get a ready Darius on only 5. You can also do that by going Seal into Darius. That's also very possible, but having additional Darius on 5 lines is really good. This is like kind of one of the best Noxus Hopeful cards, because if you play the Void Rush and then immediately see a Noxus Hopeful, you can play it for 2 less, which means you'll just play it for free, and then you'll draw the other card, which is pretty crazy. And then, of course, anything that you do play here off of the reveal can get accelerated by your Rek'Sai Breacher. So this card, again, it's your main form of advantage, but it also just has like so many other crazy hits and so many other crazy modes, and it's really powerful for that. Getting to put 3 copies of this card in our deck is just fantastic. Now let's talk about the removal suite, because we've been, hinting at how important it is to the deck, and it's a pretty core part of the deck. We've got like over 10, 12-ish removal spells in here, depending on how you sideboard. First of all, it's going to be 3 copies of Falling Star. Man, Falling Star is just a messed up card. Being able to deal 3 to any unit twice. This can pick units in base. This will get you a lot of double kills in the early game. We have our Seals. It's pretty easy to pay for. It's pretty easy to find. Or it can kill something beefy like a big old Draven or a Kaisa in the base somewhere. 6 damage is just a whole lot for 2. And yes, the 2 power is expensive. If we don't see our Seals by the time we're casting these, it can get pretty dicey. But sometimes you just have to kill something very problematic to keep your tempo, even if it means you're going to go down on runes pretty heavily. Because this deck does play pretty well on light runes. You can almost always do things. They just won't always be the best things that you could do. But Falling Star is just amazing for those 2-for-1s. And then next we have Falling Star at home coming in from Spiritforged, and this is Piercing Light. Piercing Light is really good. Sometimes it's actually a lot better than Falling Star. So Piercing Light is 2 energy and 1 power to deal 2 to a unit at a battlefield, and then 2 to up to 1 other unit, and you can repeat it for the exact same casting cost. So you can pay 4 energy and 2 power to deal 4 to something at a battlefield, and then 4 to something anywhere, which is crazy strong. All of those like pesky formats and Falling Star doesn't solo. This can solo them, and then also take out something else that's really strong. It also hits base, albeit only for one of the units, for one of the targets, not for both of them like Falling Star. But this is a crazy powerful card. This is probably my favorite card from Spiritforged, honestly. The double kills you get with this thing are absolutely immaculate. I do like Piercing Light a lot. Next up, 3 copies of Call the Weak. This just says we each got to kill one of our guys. This card uses a yellow power, which is a little yucky, but you play a lot of little dudes in this deck for the most part. We don't really have like any token generation. I'm not playing any of that in this build, although I do think some of those avenues are pretty valid. But even just being able to kill like your little stinkers, which you might have even gotten off the top of your deck for free, to get rid of their real units, this just blows out some decks. It's really important to have here in the main board, although there are a lot of matchups where you can flexibly sideboard these out a little bit, especially if your opponent is going wide, especially if they're going wider than you, which is very possible. And then for our kind of last point and click removal here, I'm playing 2 copies of a Hidden Blade. This kills anything at a battlefield, and the controller of it draws 2. You can also hide it, which is really powerful. This is kind of like the only thing close we have to like a defensive combo trick in our deck. So I do think it's still pretty important to play, just to give you a little bit of game there. But for the most part, we're not a whole deck. We're trying to, conquer, die, and then reconquer, so we can keep triggering our Rek'Sai abilities. But this just makes them think a little bit, give us a little bit of protection. Obviously, you can Hidden Blade your own guy sometimes to also draw 2. We generate a lot of card advantage in this deck, so I rarely do that, but it is a very live mode of the card sometimes. Next up, speaking of combat tricks, we do have 1 in here. It's just a little bit of an aggressive one. That's 2 copies of Blood Rush. This is just pay 1 for Assault 2, and you're allowed to repeat this if you'd like. I just wanted a little bit of aggressive power. Most of the time, you're kill spelling. You're kill spelling their dudes. You don't have to fight hand to hand too much in this deck, but when you do, it's just nice to have a little bit of a help there. It's also a 1-cost card in our deck, and so it's the only way that we can trigger Darius on 6 resources. Or so I shouldn't say the only way, because we can do it on 5 sometimes, but it gives us an avenue to trigger Darius on 6 resources too, which is pretty nice. And if you're blood rushing your Darius, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. And then the last card in our main deck is 2 copies of Salvage. Yep, Salvage in the main deck. I played a lot with this in the sideboard instead, and the more I played with it, the more I just wanted to in the main deck. At action speed, you can kill a gear and draw 1. It doesn't really have any dead matchups nowadays. Almost everyone's playing gear of some kind. It's like you're saving grace against Aurelia to get through all those Zanya's Hourglasses and all of those Guardian Angels. It's good against Draven too, being able to blow up Edge of Knights and Spinning Axes, especially like if they react with them. Being able to kill them at the action speed is mid-combat is really strong too. And then after that, you know, someone's playing Seals, you know, Miracles are playing Seals nonstop. Aurora still runs around too. There's just never really a bad time to have Salvage in there, so I'm playing 2 copies of Salvage in the main. Next up, let's talk about our sideboard a little bit. First off, I'm playing 3 copies of Forge of the Future. When you play this, you get a 1 Might Recruit token, and then you can kill this to recycle 4 cards from any player's trashes. This is just your Miracle card sideboard. I've seen a lot of Miracle creeping up at a few of my local scenes, so really easy to just sideboard out, you know, either of your 2-drops, put this guy in instead. Most of the time, a 1 Might Recruit token is not very different than any of your 2-drops in those matchups, and then the fact that you can just kind of, you know, keep their, like, for one, you can keep their good stuff out of their discard pile for like the fizzes and all. You can get the Rosses out of there so they can't revive them with like Last Rites and all that. Or if you see enough of these early on, you can just keep that stuff from ever becoming cheap. Keep the Rosses from becoming cheap. Keep the discard pile down. It's just kind of like free easy tech there. Next up is 2 copies of Ferris Forerunner. This guy says when he dies, you get 2 3-Might Mech tokens into your base. If you're against a heavy removal deck that you know it's going to get pretty grindy, this is just a really good like anti-value card to bring in against them. And you know, you can kind of typically a lot of those, if it's like the Victor decks or something like that, like those Singularity decks that also like go wide themselves, you want to side out your Cold of Weeks anyway. So this is a really easy side in for those. Same for Bryn here, Thundersong. I got one of this guy in here. He just says when you play him, your opponents can't play cards this turn. This is sometimes pretty good against Aurelia as well. Usually good against Draven if they have like, you know, a big like pass with a lot of resources up. Pretty flexible card for any decks that are interested in, you know, not tapping out ever against you. That's good. And then I'm just playing a 3rd copy of Hidden Blade and a 3rd copy of Salvage. Salvage you'll obviously bring in for those heavy gear matchups, the 3rd one. And then Hidden Blade you'll usually bring for anything that just like kind of plays one singular big guy. It's pretty good for Aurelia. It's good against some kind of niche stuff too. Like it's good against Ornn. It's good against a lot of Thousand Tail Watcher decks. Sometimes you just really need point and click a bit more than you need damage removal. And that, my dear summoners, is going to wrap up our Walking Dead Immortal Phoenix Rek'Sai deck profile. All in all, this deck is a ton of fun to play. Oh my goodness. It's a little bit, you know, no gamble, no future, but drawing so many cards, flipping so many cards off the top, just makes it an absolute riot to play. It's a total blast, blasting their guys nonstop. It's a very versatile deck. It's a very well-rounded deck, and it's also just like a lot of fun to learn. It's got some interesting lines sometimes, and the way you kind of have to play into the potential outs you might have in your variants of like your Rek'Sai triggers and Void Rushes, it's not unlike playing a beta book deck, which is also some of the most fun that you can have in Riftbound. That is going to wrap it up for this video. Thanks so much if you made it all the way to the end, and if you want to see some more TCG content in general, feel free to subscribe and look forward to some of that in your inbox. And if you sleeve this deck up for yourself, I would also like to hear about your experiences below in the comment section, and some stuff that you might change based on your own personal preferences, or maybe your local meta, or maybe just some sweet tech that I have not quite discovered yet. Until then, happy Spiritforged release, have some fun games, and I hope to see you in the next one.